I ain't gonna cap. The more I see of this game, the less excited I am for it. I have yet to see anything that differentiates it from Dead Space, warrants purchase aside from strictly live streaming content on my channel, or establishes the capability or legitimacy of next-gen consoles. It's astonishing the number of games that still seek influence from RE and Silent Hill, and yet they're able to stand out from their inspirations. I'm not impressed. If that isn't bad enough, if the hype cycle isn't already in full swing, you've got this fluff piece courtesy of reliable media minion IGN. Reinventing survival horror? Anyone insincerely drumming up artificial anticipation that the Callisto effect is poised to innovate the survival horror genre should get a CT scan to confirm the dead space between their ears. Apparently, embellishment is as bad with scary games as it is with horror movies. A history lesson, kiddies. The last media-fueled hype train that was allowed to go off the rails was called The Evil Within, when shill news outlets, IGN very much included, were blowing smoke over how that game spelled the return to form for survival horror icon Shinji Mikami. How'd that one turn out? Oh, that's right, that game didn't reinvent a damn thing, took no responsibility by putting the cart before the horse, and that game came out just one console life cycle ago, and clearly they haven't learned their lesson. The moral of the story? Let this game stand on its own merits and cool it with the advertisement.
Incoming transmission.
Seems she has intercepted a transmission of unknown origin. She got us up to check it out.
What kind of a transmission?
SOS? I don't know.
Human?
Unknown.
Priority 1 message from Starfleet coming in on secured channel.
Go ahead.
We're receiving an automated distress call.
Contact established.
In the face of the industrial media complex, the Coroner's Report presents you a news anchor with something of a villain complex. As much as the Coroner's Report strives to provide you peace of mind in your darkest hour, I'm afraid we have grave news in store. Your trusted news that will refuse to skimp on all the gory details. Today's lead correspondent, Inkarnate, will play your bearer of bad news. Reporting live from the recesses of the mind's eye comes the latest updates in horror entertainment. We go now to our Shadowcaster for a sign of things to come. Allow me to spin you the skinny on the excessive publicity surrounding Callisto Protocol and where it all stems. It's a tale of delayed reactions and revisionism. So once upon a 7th gen console, the twin towers that defined, dominated, and redefined scary games, Resident Evil and Silent Hill, were now waning franchises by the time of the arrival of the HD game systems, and new blood was in dire need. Enter Dead Space, a sincere attempt to create a new IP for the new systems whose efforts were so successful its popularity led to the launch of its own franchise. Sounds absolutely peaches, doesn't it? So, what's the problem? And how does this tie back to the Callisto Protocol? I'm so glad you asked. Hope you don't mind while I keep you in suspense. I'll spill the beans right after this video's sponsors. Think of the power to tune out the whole world placed in your hands. Now think again, because Jabra Headsets puts that power in your ears. Listen closely. From workout earbuds to Bluetooth music headsets and office hearing devices. So, if other brands play your music sounding like a broken record, march to the beat of a different tune with Jabra. If you're an HD snob like me, you probably buy Samsung for all your major electronics. Catch up on your favorite horror classics on one of their Ultra HD TVs. Watch one of Scream Factory's Blu-rays on their 4K players. Keep up with updates from 80s horror documentary In Search of Darkness on a high-end tablet. Subscribe to your favorite YouTuber through one of their Galaxy phones. I have so many Samsung devices, I've always thought they should be paying me. Well, now they can, and you can help. If you use the link in the description for either Samsung or Jabra purchases, it'll help the channel out tremendously. With the promotional considerations accounted for, it's on with the show. The original Dead Space was mislabeled as carrying the survival horror genre from the very beginning. Collapsed during the same generation of home gaming it debuted in, utterly missed the entirety of the Xbox One and PlayStation 4 era, and the remnants of its dev team have since reunited to attempt to capitalize on a dearth of signature IP now that we are firmly entrenched in the next gen. You add in clickbait news media desperate to be the first for a headline and a hashtag, and now you've just cooked up a recipe for disappointment. In case you lost track of those breadcrumbs I just laid out, allow me to spell it out for you. The very same mantle that faux gaming journalists attempted to compulsorily bestow upon Dead Space, they're now striving to do with Callisto Protocol. So, not only do they aim to cash in on that rain check that they themselves wrote, but this time around, unlike Dead Space, they're not even waiting on release. Ain't nobody got time for that. The news sites already have their article titles in advance of the debut and want to arbitrarily coronate the Callisto Protocol as the second coming of survival horror. See, you're not allowed to make up your own mind because they've written this game's legacy for you. Yeah, I hate to break up your little coronation ceremony, but it absolutely does not work like that. You can't hold a crowning achievement on hot standby for 14 years and expect it's going to stick around this time. OG Dead Space was the king of survival horror, not because it actually was, but because a bunch of entertainment reporters said so, and ironically, like someone else's saved game, they think that they can just slot in the same talking points just because the same developers got the band back together. I'd like to direct your attention to the games cited in my intro of this video's coverage. These gaming news outlets tried this before last gen, and does anyone believe for a second that your IGNs or your Bloody Disgustings retracted their statements or otherwise took accountability when Shinji Mikami's The Evil Within didn't live up to the standards that they themselves set for it?
It's not just a no, it's a oh hell no!
They lack journalistic integrity and credibility, so they're as giddy as schoolgirls to artificially christen the next king of survival horror to anyone, so long as they get a cut of that sweet ad revenue. Don't be led astray. You can't put the premise or the promise of passing the torch on layaway. What's going to happen if this inauguration doesn't pan out this time around? Wait until the Xbox Series Next or PS6 to try and fail for a record fourth time at appointing an heir apparent to survival horror? Because all you've done lately is name pretenders to the throne. Look, from Thief, we got Gloomwood. Nightcry sought inspiration from the Clock Tower series. Without Dino Crisis, we wouldn't be getting Exoprimal. Okay, fair enough. Let's strike that last one from the record.
Record? Is someone supposed to be writing this down? This is crazy.
That's beside the point.
My point is, I fully support spiritual successors, but it's odd to me that an allegedly new IP essentially amounts to the living ghost of yesteryear game title. And clearly the media feel the same way, with the defense that gaming media has preemptively ran for Callisto Protocol. I guess damage control is part of that protocol. Come on, guys. Even the naming conventions of the monsters is nearly identical. I only learned this week that Callisto Protocol's version of zombies are called biophages. How terribly original. You're really gonna tell me that that's not even kinda similar to necromorphs? Hasn't anyone asked the question, why would you release this game so close to the Dead Space remake? Just 2 short months apart. What, for the shill media to cover for you with a lame defense of something new, something old? Look, I like me a good double feature, Cabin in the Woods and Evil Dead Remake for instance. It's just that the timing of this is peculiar to say the least. I started this video referencing episode 48 of all the horror games announced this summer. If you'll recall from episode 17, I wasn't feeling Callisto Protocol since its announcement at the 2020 Game Awards because it just looked like more of the same. Speaking of Callisto's spiritual predecessor, with the Dead Space remake due out early 2023, RE4 getting its revival, the upcoming Dead Island 2, The Walking Dead, Saints and Sinners, State of Decay 3, I pray to God that we're not in store for a third gaming zombie fad. I was sick to death of zombies back in the 360 days. I'm positively torpid at the thought of another wave of these unimaginative cannibal corpses. If the zombocalypse has been overcooked in TV and movies, they're downright charbroiled when it comes to gaming. I don't see the need for so much hype over something that doesn't realize that it's dead. What is this, the Madonna career simulator? My intention is not to rain golden showers on anyone's parade. I'll save that for Neil Druckmann's gaping mouth next time he goes on a copyright spree for his overrated franchise. I'm glad this game is getting a major PR campaign. I'm happy that any survival horror game is getting treated to AAA marketing. But I caution gamers to temper your expectations, especially while news outlets aim to profit from your enthusiasm. I mean, if you end up regretting your purchase, then you're no better than Alyssa Milano. And I don't want that for you, mein Frauleins. They've certainly spared no expense with publicity, using behind-the-scenes videos to tout the game, unloading the gravy truck, and wheeling out every horror icon like Tom Savini, Robert Kirkman, and Sean S. Cunningham to advertise Callisto Protocol. Although I could do without the vocabulary lessons. Look, I appreciate the intended effort, and I'm not against tapping the legends. Hell, I got a kick out of Doug Bradley narrating one of Scorn trailers. But even titling this docuseries as Mastering Horror, it's just serving to further perpetuate that perception of innovation while offering very little of substance. Bear in mind, Dante's Inferno also got developer diaries rolled out like clockwork to promote its release. And that game, well, as they say, the rest is history. I only mention that game because it's the same developers as Dead Space and Callisto Protocol. Food for thought. But whatever pages of history thought stuck together are up for the Coroner's report to unravel and Inkarnate to divulge. I've been Das Carnate, your bearer of bad news, reminding you, grave news invariably comes at night, and it's getting dark out.
Not bad, but I got better. Oh, monster!
If you're resigned to your fate, time to subscribe to your fears.
Come play with us.